Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 101 of the Not Joanna Eggs podcast. This week, we are reviewing Infinity Train Season 2 with our special guest and friend of the show, Jacob Davison, who is a writer for iHorror and is affiliated with quite a few podcasts. I would highly recommend that you check out his Twitter or his Instagram via @Jacob_Davison on Instagram and via @Jacob_Davison on Twitter. We had a great time checking out Infinity Train. Huge fans of the show, and it was great to revisit this one. And we also wanted to release this particular episode to coincide with the Season 1 Infinity Train DVD that is set to be coming out on the day that this is released, which is April 21st. So please check that out. Please support the release. This show is incredible. Like, the consistency is fantastic, and we just love it. So thank you again so much for listening. Hope that you are maintaining your sanity as best as can be expected during the current dumpster fire of a year that we find ourselves in. And please stay safe, and please keep everything clean. So everything. And thank you so much for listening. We hope you guys dig this one. Take care. Bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Not Joanna Eggs podcast. I'm Tracy.
And I'm Robin.
And we have a guest with us today, technically recurring at this point, as previously he had hosted with me when Robin was unable to record. And we had a great time and wanted to have him back on. So please introduce yourself, guest.
Hello, my name is Jacob Davison. I'm a horror writer, and I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, it'll be cool to talk about this too, because we're doing another, the first time, if listener, if you didn't hear that previous episode, Jacob was on to discuss I believe it was our top 5 cult episodes, meaning like cartoon shows that happen to talk about cults. We had a great time talking about it, and since it's kind of dealing with sci-fi and horror things, today we decided to discuss a fairly recent TV series that very acclaimed, at least within our immediate group of friends. And it's Infinity Train Season 2.
Yeah. Since we did Season 1, we figured why not do Season 2?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, if you thought there wasn't enough Cronenberg references, sit down, because there's even more this time.
Yeah, things got darker and edgier, and I love it.
A lot. And not in the edgy, Shadow the Hedgehog kind of way, legitimately more threatening and
existential.
It's definitely much darker than the first season.
If the first season is Hey Arnold, this one is the latter half of Invader Zim. Gets kind of macabre there.
And existential.
Yeah, and existential. Yeah, that's... I really do love the consistency of this series, just because I love the first season, obviously, for everything from the soundtrack to the characters, the story arcs, all of it's just fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
They really dialed it up with this one.
Infinity Train Season 2.
Yes.
Follows the continuing story of Mirror Tulip,
who now goes by MT, as she just basically kind of exists, going throughout different cars, trying to forge her own identity and just enjoy life for herself. But she's also a real cranky sour pants.
She is.
Yeah, she's extremely combative and defensive, with pretty much anybody.
And she got a punk makeover.
She did, yeah.
She did.
She kind of went full Furiosa, honestly. She's got the little cutoff, t-shirt and black pants and everything. Still got the same, she's got the same jeans and boots that Tulip had, obviously, but just, she's got something to prove, I think.
She pierced her ears, and she got a haircut in the most metal way imaginable by hanging off the side of the train and sticking her head against the wheels.
Making that train work for her.
She basically ground her hair off.
It's a good look for her. Don't mind it. That's even more cosplay opportunities now. I'll just be like, hey, if you don't have red hair, just go bald. It's fine. We got to move all these Dr. Evil bald caps, so let's do it.
And chrome paint.
You better believe. Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. All the chrome paint.
The Tin Man is not very hot this year, but if you're into Infinity Train, go for it. But yeah, so it's following Mirror Tulip as she's going through a bunch of different cars, including the kaiju car, which we saw briefly in one of the little vignette, short story things that they had one doing as an interstitial between seasons.
I do love that they did those kind of infomercials with one just kind of doing what are those, video vacation log, video logs, going to different cards.
Like, just like, hey, visit the scenic kaiju car.
Even though he somehow misses the giant kaijus fighting behind him.
I mean, that or he's just so unfazed, you know? He's seen a lot of shit. He's probably just kind of biased.
He did make the kaiju, right? So he's probably like, yeah, I know this is here.
They're not going to hurt me. It's fine.
No.
They're having fun.
I am honestly still holding out for whenever they hopefully end up making like a little plastic snap together one that has like one that's really like happy and optimistic, and then the other one that's just depressed, and basically Marvin, the paranoid android from Hitchhiker's Guide.
Very depressing.
Yeah, you can definitely see that the show creator, I think it's Owen Dennis, correct?
Yep.
Yeah,
that's him.
You can definitely see where he gets a lot of his inspirations from. Like, especially even featuring a cameo by none other than Bill Corbett, the voice of Crow T. Robot from Mystery Science Theater. I was like, the instant I heard that, I was like, holy shit, Jake would love this.
Yes, and I did love it.
In terms of the ensemble on this particular season, it's just fantastic. Let's get into more of the plot, too, just because we get a complete antithesis of MT in the form of the character Jesse. I think his name is Jesse Kosei.
Yep, Jesse Kosei, voiced by Robbie Damon. He's
seemingly a very, like, well-meaning, kind of sweet, sort of jockey dude, like, very friendly, but obviously doesn't stand up for himself enough.
He's got one of those varsity jackets.
Yeah, well, he's very susceptible to sort of like peer pressure. That's why he's sort of on the train to begin with.
Jesse's backstory ends up getting explained into a few further episodes, but the crux of it is basically, number one, both he and MT have to kind of learn to work together so that they can, MT wants to try to get out of the Infinity Train, so she offers to help Jesse get his number down so that he can take her with him.
Well, and it's not even that to start, right? It's literally to start is, I want to hang out with this deer, and I don't like you, but you also want to hang out with this
yes.
deer.
Alan Dracula.
Mutual friends of Alan
Dracula so much.
Alan Dracula is he's such a great character, and he barely talks whatsoever. Like, because he's just supposed to be like a regular deer.
He's a regular deer with like all kinds of crazy powers.
And no one knows why. Like, how many other Alan Draculas could there be? Maybe there is just one. Who knows?
I think there's just the one, because there's a joke at the end when they say, I have to get you home now. And he just rockets away.
Yes.
And you hear one
Godspeed, Alan Dracula. Godspeed.
What one literally says is, I broke the mold when I made you, Alan Dracula.
It's true. I mean, because like he just poochies his way out of there. He's like, I have to go now. My planet needs me.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's it. And thinking back, it is interesting. Like, his cart is just a forest in the fall and Alan Dracula. That's it.
Like, just totally idyllic. I mean, like, honestly, maybe that is like the perfect oasis for Alan Dracula to live in.
Well, but we also realize that's the family tree car, right? He falls through a hole in it.
So maybe he's just been wandering this entire time too. Oh, yeah, that is true.
So I agree. It's possible he was wandering, although I don't like to think too much about the implications of the hands.
Yeah, I don't either.
Episode.
Yeah, I don't either.
That is weird.
He goes between yaoi hands to baby hands to like, no. But to be fair, that was the parasite manipulating him. Like, I don't think that Alan Dracula, as he is, would not realistically allow that.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But I don't want to think about those.
Yeah.
I'm with Mirror Tulip. It's super gross. Don't ever do it again.
Yeah, it is gross.
And back on MT, she's still being pursued by the Mirror Police.
Yeah, the Flex.
Yeah. Basically, these two oddly noirish themed reflection people who are stalking her down, kind of like the Terminator crossed with like the strangers from Dark City.
Yeah, I was going to say Javert from Les Mis, because they just do not give up. They're just constantly in pursuit. Like, that's like their entire...
Well, that's their job.
Yeah, it is their job. And then like you kind of just see like further into the story, because like they really do get into like this almost like this will sound weird, but like almost like kind of like a Blade Runner-esque type of morality thing, where it's like just because Mirror Tulip isn't technically a passenger on there, does that really destroy her humanity, or like does that make her any less human than anyone else? Because the Flex themselves really don't want to change with that protocol whatsoever. They're invested in it. They understand it. It's what makes sense to them. They're just there to keep order. Like, the fact that MT doesn't want to do that and does not want to basically kind of be like a puppet to help other passengers learn lessons to be able to get off the train. Like, that does not matter to her, really.
She doesn't even want to be the reflection, right?
Yeah.
That's the beginning of her story.
It's interesting because, like, when they first meet Tulip and Mirror Tulip, it has a lot of differences from Tulip. Like, she says that she hates coding video games, which is Tulip's passion, and she also doesn't like a lot of foods that Tulip likes. So
Well,
is
to
it?
be fair, Tulip likes to eat onions like apples, so
Which is the weirdest fucking thing.
It's gross. I mean, like, okay, like number one, if her parents are okay with her doing that, fine. But like, her farts have got to be awful.
Oh god.
I mean, like, if you just have onion rings, you're done for like 2 days. It's just.
I mean, maybe you are, but
we can't all have ironclad colons, Robin. Okay, Jesus, you gotta drag me right now.
Yep.
In this, the year of our Lord, actually, out of any year, this would be the year. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah, but
Yep.
But I agree with you. The burps of onions for days after raw
Just
onions
processing
sounds
it has got to be
horrific.
awful. It's like, oh yeah, let's combine stomach acid with like the extremely toxic fumes of an onion. Sign me up.
Yes.
Anyway, like yeah, I like that. They also just kind of show that. Because I actually did rewatch that episode like after seeing season 2, just because you see that MT is obviously, she does not like being dependent on Tulip, you know, like she wants to have her own experiences. Like there's no real back and forth between her and Tulip prior to that episode, because like she absolutely calls Tulip out on like, you know, avoiding her friends, avoiding her family, just you know, trying to be totally insulated from all that conflict and stuff so she doesn't have to deal with it.
Yeah, well, and she doesn't ask for help is the other thing about Tulip that's really tricky.
Yeah.
I like that Mirror Tulip represents that for Tulip. I think she does a lot of interesting things here in the second season.
Yeah, and the fact that Tulip, even in that first season, is willing to allow her to come out and just basically experience life on her own, too. Like, number one, I was a little bit surprised to see that she even had a Swiss Army knife, but, you know, whatever, go figure.
Oh, me it fits.
Yeah, I mean, sure. But, yeah, like, just being able to, like, leave and everything, and, you know, like, just kind of almost like a no questions asked kind of thing, because basically, from that point on, MT has just been a vigilante, to the point that she's been gone so long they had to make a wanted poster for her.
Yeah.
So, but there's still a whole other group of just people that are indefinitely just living on the infinity train by either not wanting to learn any lessons or not wanting to change their behavior, or just because they like being bastard people and keep exacerbating their own sentences.
The apex.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the more interesting sort of implications of this season.
Yeah.
Is the apex, where you have this group of people who are on the train who were there essentially season 1 and prior, after, what was it, Emma in the first season took over?
Amelia. Yeah, when Amelia was the conductor.
Yeah, the old conductor.
Yeah, who is apparently voiced by Lena Headey, who played Queen Cersei Lannister on Game of Thrones. I looked it up. I was like, what the fuck? How did I not know that?
And off of that, like, I was surprised to learn, researching this, that the Mirror Police Agent Mace and Agent Steve are voiced by Ben Mendelsohn and Bradley Whitford.
I don't know who those people are.
If you've ever seen Billy Madison, Bradley Whitford is the guy that played Eric, the antagonist.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that guy.
Ben Mendelsohn is the bad guy from Rogue One, and he's the detective in The Outsider.
Yeah, he had been in some more recent stuff too, because like there's this one monologue that's just incredible in one of the episodes. It's like it's kind of more. I don't want to get into it just now because it's not really a logical time, but. We'll get into it because I want to approach more of like Jesse and MT's journey together first, and then we'll talk about that part.
There's a lot of good stuff this season.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, there's so much. So what I love, I think... I want to talk about the map car real quick, because that car is like 100% my aesthetic.
Yes, yes it is. Old-timey
Nice.
maps, and Wayne Knight being the voice of the wind. That's
Yep.
right.
Oh,
Wayne
yeah.
The
Knight, who's
old-timey
Newman.
cloud.
Your boy, Newman.
Newman from Seinfeld, or also
Newman.
the guy from Space Jam.
Or the coding guy
From Jurassic Park. Yes. Oh, I'm sure you're familiar with his work.
Oh, we got a map. We got a map here.
Yeah.
See.
But yeah, like I like the mechanics behind that too, because like the Win character had apparently he'd been going insane because he didn't want people to end up finishing the map, because then that would mean that they would leave and then he'd have no purpose for a while.
Sad.
He also like stops having a corporeal form at that point, right?
Yeah.
So there's something to that, but I just loved that car, especially so like one, obviously the aesthetics of the map, but also that when Jesse goes to talk to the mermaids, the mermaids are like, oh, also they want you to tell you that your hair is cool, and Mirror Tulip blushes.
Yeah, I thought
Yep.
that was really, I like that he just swims over in there and he's like, sup. And they're totally into it.
I also love that it's probably a perspective thing, but they look teeny tiny.
I think they are teeny tiny because it's still, I think that Jesse's still supposed to be regular sized, and just because it's a map, everything's kind of done on a scale, because he still manages to make it there in like what, maybe 5 strokes, like when he's swimming,
pretty easy.
doing the butterfly. There were quite a few cars actually where I was just like, I don't understand how they're going to get out of this. I really like the fact that all the Apex kids hang out in the mall car because of course they do, because they're shitty teenagers who basically try to take Alan Dracula and try to separate MT and Jesse from each other and basically try to manipulate Jesse away from defending MT.
Yeah, they got kind of a post-apocalypse Mad Max thing kind of going for them. Yeah,
but it's in a mall, so they're less threatening somehow.
Back on, like when we were talking about cults, like the Apex is kind of a cult because, they got their leader, Grace, who has philosophy that they want to be on the train longer, and like the train belongs to the passengers, like, and they can do whatever they want with or whoever they want. And she kind of worships the original conductor because, like, I was reading some of the trivia, and, like, the whole thing with them having the lines on their faces represents, how the...
the wavelength of the voice.
Yeah, the voice wavelength of the voice of the conductor. Yeah, it's kind of like some kind of weird Beyond Thunderdome, like, type of thing, which, again, the whole 80s aesthetic works with that.
Oh, yeah. They're so, like, intensely kind of colonialist.
Yeah, strangely so much, where it's like, I like that they have the parallel thing. I guess we actually can start talking about why Jesse's on the car to begin with, is just because as well-meaning and friendly as he is a bit of a pushover when it comes to standing up to his friends, and to the point that he's basically bullying and videotapes his little brother getting bullied by him and his friends just because he wants social acceptance, which is like, I get it, like that has definitely happened, like that happens especially with a teenager his age too, but I think it's just like, he was trying to kind of minimize it and everything, just like, well, we were just joking around, I thought it would be funny. But, like, MT just totally calls him out. He's like, that's still your little brother, man. Like, you shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, and she's like, you realize your friends are, like, shitheads, right?
Yeah, and I'm glad she said it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wish MT existed in the Akira universe, because she's just like, you need to stop hanging out with him, Kaori, because they are not good for you. And then she probably would have beat the shit out of Tetsuo before he could have done any of that shit, frankly.
Well, that's one thing I think is so cool about Mirror Tulip and why she's kind of fun to have as a character.
Yeah.
Is she's essentially indestructible.
Literally made of metal.
She's been, like, punching kids and kicking kids and everything.
Oh my god, there's no way she didn't break, like, a few noses or limbs in the mall car.
Yeah. And they even have, like, what I could only assume was supposed to be, like, a mild Evangelion reference, because she basically just kind of Anta Baka flicks him in the head or whatever, but she's still made out of metal. So I was like, is that like a small bullet wound? Like, what force is it going at? Yeah, that's true. I just associated with Evangelion.
I know you do.
I really like Ava.
It's fine. Not everything's an Ava reference.
Yes, it is!
I am agreeing with Tracy on this one. There are Evangelion references everywhere now because all modern animators grew up on Evangelion.
It's true. I mean, and now a whole nother generation is going to be depressed during one of the worst times to be in the U.S. in my lifetime.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely not a great time.
Yeah, not a great time. Man, these kids, they're just only going to know recession and sadness. So.
Yep. Life's
Yikes.
Great. Can we talk for a second about... I want to mention two things. One, the Lucky Cat car overall.
Yes.
Partially because that is very much like season 1 Easter, not even Easter egg, but like season 1.
It's a cameo fest. Like there's a ton
of
characters
came back,
from
literally.
that first thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And she still got the donut holder somehow.
Well, she doesn't have the donut holder. The guy's still trying to sell it.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
He's like, hey, want to buy a donut holder? Came on a little strong there, buddy.
Good old Rise Darby.
It's true. Yeah, he's the bad. Like Murray from Flight of the Conchords back again. Great to see him.
The werewolves, not swearwolves guy.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
I really like seeing that there are actually a lot of Easter eggs from the first season too, because you could see like some of the cross-eyed ducks as plushies against like the prize wall and everything. Like, and just the idea of like having a bunch of just like carnival games and stuff and having to win their way to get the door, which is like I'd never seen that kind of rule before, but it's like I like that it's not just a point A to point B thing. Like some of it you really do have to do some kind of trial or there's some kind of thing tied to it. It's not as straightforward.
And I love how the cat is the grifter character in the series.
Yeah.
I love her so much.
Yeah. And like one is apparently okay with her totally just scamming people, like even though he probably could have kicked her off at that point, but I guess where else would she go?
Well, that's the thing, right? We see in this that like aside from the fact like the cockroach dog thing that we see previously, we know that based on the Wasteland episode, they can't leave the train. They can only go so far.
Yeah, dude.
There's basically like,
God.
I don't know, force field or something.
Yeah, I think it's like they have to be within a certain perimeter of the train, or like they end up getting basically magnetized back to it.
Again, talking about the ways in which MT is like just so impressive, is she uses that to her advantage to get back to the train and escape the cockroaches.
Oh god, it's so good. I guess we can talk about that scene too. But we also haven't really mentioned the whole like the first kind of like I guess like climax of it, and then like the resolution too. Like I wanted to talk about like how eventually once MT and Jesse are helping each other, he does offer to take MT back with him because I guess his number goes down after he stands up to the shitty Apex kids.
Yeah, so they have that moment of him like totally rejecting everything they're telling him, and then he says, I think it's literally the moment you're talking about when he says he's gonna bring Mirror Tulip with him, that his door opens.
Yeah, like his number goes totally down, and then the door opens, and they're both trying to get out of the car at the same time.
And for some context, this is when Grace, the leader of the Apex, unleashes the Mirror Police on MT.
Yes.
Because
I was like,
she's a
the
jerk.
instant I saw that, I was like, you bitch. Like, she literally just takes out a compact, and then they just show up immediately.
She
Like,
is the worst.
No, I know. I really like that mechanic of like how, especially in the first episode, you see that Mirror Tulip is just constantly like she's trying to avoid reflective surfaces as much, or she has a can of black spray paint with her to cover it up so that they can't escape out of any of that stuff, or they can't come out of like it really was a very smart, very clever thing to do too, because like that was all it took was just her flashing that mirror, and then immediately the cops show up and they're basically like totally ready to destroy her, basically. Like they like sand her face off, or they just sand her down completely.
They want to just sand her down to nothing.
Yeah, it's like awful.
Yeah, I love their weapons though, like the giant horrible belt sanders.
Yeah, I mean,
that
it's
they
like
hold
legitimately
like a fucking
threatening
baton stick.
Like, yeah, like especially like because later into the series, one of the cops ends up going berserk basically, and like he's just totally unhinged, and it's like they're genuinely very threatening.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So during that scene where Jesse and MT are trying to escape, turns out that MT is still tied to the car, even though she technically has autonomy because of the reflective mirror that Tulip had used before. So like you can see like it's like heartbreaking because like Jesse is trying to like hold on to her. It's kind of an Orpheus and Eurydice sort of thing, but like he just can't bring her with him. And like she's just completely distraught after the fact because they catch her almost immediately.
Yeah, well, and then she escapes into the wasteland.
Mm-hmm. Wait, so does she escape?
She gets cuffed by Mace, and they end up in the wasteland, falling off the train.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's just like that whole episode in general, the Wasteland one is probably one of my favorites, if not from this run, definitely of the series. Just because the whole dynamic between it is that when they're escaping from it, Mace's legs are basically kind of shaved or cut off. I forget exactly how it was. I feel like it was extremely graphic though, because there's actually a surprising amount of gore in this, or light gore,
cartoon gore against like non-human things, so it's okay.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
Like surprisingly, I mean, especially at the tail end of this particular episode, but at that point MT is handcuffed to Mace, so they're basically just they're being forced to wander through the desert together, like while he's basically just like tearing her down, like the entire time he's just being totally belittling and awful, like, and as defensive as she can be, he does raise a really good point where he's like, well, what do you think will happen even if you do make it off of the train and get into the real world? It's like, you're made out of metal, like it's not like you can go to college, you can't get a job, you can't
like what's gonna become of you?
Yeah, no, I was like, and it was a good point, and like she still gets defensive about it, but like no, like to an extent he is right, but that doesn't destroy her morale for still wanting to do something and get off of it and be her own person.
Yeah, and again I gotta say I really love this arc and the theme of this particular season about just what measure is a human, or what makes somebody human, or in this case a passenger, because MT is more empathic and more compassionate than Grace and the Apex kids, whose whole philosophy they are the most human, therefore they have reign over all they over all they see. So it puts them out. It's like they consider themselves to be superior because they consider themselves human, while they consider things like MT and Alan Dracula to not be real, and therefore theirs for the taking. So
yeah, exactly.
Like MT is far more better person than any of them.
Yeah, or at the very least, like she has more of yen or a desire to actually like kind of do something, because the other Apex kids, they're basically just delaying their time on there inevitably, just because they like squatting there. Like, and admittedly, if you were a very adventurous person, maybe there's more appeal to you there. But at the same time, it's still like a bad form of either escapism, or they just genuinely believe that there's nothing wrong with them and they don't have any reason to be on that train.
Yeah, I 100% think it's about escapism, right?
Yeah.
Because that seems to be so much of what the train is about.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Because if they can just be on there indefinitely, they'll never have to deal with whatever was drawing them into the train to begin with.
Yep.
Like
Right.
there's no need for conflict resolution if you can just keep denying it inevitably.
I do want to backtrack real quick to the Parasite train
Yes.
because of my
Yes.
for no reason other than my favorite fucking scene, which is when they go into the fashion train and we get Mirror Tulip in the best outfit
Yes.
ever.
It's the best.
Yes.
I love it so much.
Isn't that the Hatsune Miku hair?
It looks a lot like her hair.
I mean, it's
just
the
same shade, I think.
Yeah, it's probably like a light homage.
Like, that is anime hair.
She's just so clearly over it. Like, I think that's why I
She's
like
like,
it.
whatever I have to do to get going, it's fine. Just let me leave.
Yes.
And also the fact that Alan Dracula, while he has the parasite that's played
Perry.
by Bill Corbett inside him, Perry, which is like, honestly, Perry gets a lot of weird body horror stuff in there just in general, because like deer don't bend like that. They're not supposed to bend like that.
Their heads are supposed to twirl in a complete circle, but Alan Dracula goes ahead and does that too.
Yep. But at the same time, he like Perry's, he's very entertaining, but like he's obviously bad for Alan Dracula because he's more or less manipulating him. But my God, if Alan Dracula, when he has the parasite in him, does not do the best runway walk, I don't know what it is. Like, they made that deer pretty. That was one pretty deer.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about Perry the Parasite more, also because just Bill Corbett is so funny as him. Because
he did a great job. Like, whatever personality they gave him, like, he's like, well, hey, can I get in one of you guys now? Come on.
I was in a succulent for years.
Just come on, whose mouth do I go in next? Come on. I just love how like kind of affable he is while also being kind of horrifying.
Yeah, while also being an obvious parasite.
Yeah, he's got a weird used car salesman thing about him.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Yeah, like if it wasn't Bill Corbett, I'd expect him to be voiced by oh damn, I'm blocking his name. Better Call Saul.
Oh, Bob Odenkirk.
Bob Odenkirk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob Odenkirk would do great with him
he'd do
too.
great too.
But yeah, no, I love Bill Corbett as Perry, especially just like when Alan starts to go haywire and he's just keeps on trying to underscore. He's like, hey, not to alarm you guys, but, just having a little trouble manipulating Alan Dracula here, but don't worry, it's cool, it's fine. And just growing into a mass and like shooting around.
Yeah, but then he's even like they're trapped inside like what kind of appears to be like
the food pyramid.
I was like, is that a food pyramid?
Yeah, literally
train?
just a food pyramid.
That is totally a food pyramid.
Yeah, because and then I was starting to get like Alice in Wonderland parallels, like the whole like he starts growing like way bigger and his head bursts through the top of the house, like or the food pyramid rather. So he is he's the most. You need to be sparing about the amount of Alan Dracula you incorporate into your diet.
Yes.
Yeah, but
extremely.
But yeah, like I love like this. It's definitely a lot. I guess I would say substantially less wacky than the first one, but there is no shortage of humor because MT, as prickly as she can be, does get a lot of really great like one-liners and like just kind of jabs in, which I thought was like very, very entertaining. But this one takes it a lot more seriously than I think the first one did. So.
Oh yes.
Yeah, well, and you get like again, you want to talk about like the cartoon violence thing.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
we've talked a little bit about. So when Mirror Tulip escapes the wasteland and gets back to the train, she literally grinds the Fleck mace against the wheels of the train until he's gone.
Although some context, he was dying and wanted to take her with him.
I mean,
he
I'm
threatened to
not
pull her
knocking
down
for
too.
it.
No, but it was still extremely violent. Like even within a cartoon,
you see clearly liquid bits of him.
Oh my God,
spray
that was
off
so
onto the
graphic.
face, and I'm like, man, that's gruesome.
Yeah.
if this was done in like a live action kind of film or something, like some other kind of honestly, that minute alone, or like sorry, that particular sequence alone, I was like, this feels very Cronenberg because he's known for doing a lot of body horror, and just like the idea of grinding someone's head and face using the wheel of a train, I was like, that's so horrifying.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
works. Like, it's very visceral. And then, like, later when his partner is totally vengeful and just wants to destroy
Steve.
MT, it's like, you totally get it. Because, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, MT was defending herself, but my God, was it brutal. But it was
Yeah.
effective, you know, it worked.
And that's actually another point I wanted to bring up, just the differences between MT and Agents Mason and Steve. Because I feel like, well, the difference between them is, you know, like MT is seeking her individuality and, you know, life outside the system, while Mace and Steve are fanatically obsessed with upholding the system regardless of the morality or, you know, like whether it benefits them or others. Like, they just have a job, they have an objective, no ifs, ands, or buts. They want to sand MT down to nothing because that's what they do.
Yeah, because she's been breaking the law.
Yeah, and also because they present them as being both good cop and bad cop, which I thought was like, that was like a funny thing to do. But then it's like when you see Steve freak out later, it's like it feels a lot more visceral too, because it's like, you know, he was supposed to be kind of like the more sort of naive, like junior cop or whatever. But my God, like, he is just bloodthirsty by the last episode.
He breaks.
Yeah.
Oh,
my
yeah.
God. Yeah, and his downfall is like genuinely horrifying. I was like, the first time I saw it, I was like, what the fuck? Because Alan Dracula explodes him with his laser eyes.
Oh, yeah.
And in any other context, if I was talking about this, you'd be like, what are you talking about? It's like, no, you see it. And like, they make it very deliberately exploding violent. So
yeah, no, just like going back to Evangelion, you know, just slow disintegration.
Yeah, it was like it hit me in the same, or like in a very similar vein to in End of Evangelion, where the Lance of Longinus punctures Asuka's Unit 2's eye. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yep, they did not shy away on this one.
Yeah, I was like, okay, guys, all right, yeah, I'm down to clown. Let's do it.
Yeah, and I love though that it's just kind of a manipulation of. I'm not sure exactly if it's, you know, a censor law or whatever, but just I heard, you know, in cartoons, like, so long as a character isn't human, like if it's a robot or something, you can do whatever you want to them because no blood, but you can do that.
Well, and that actually, there was a similar rule too, especially on, I think it was either Hey Arnold, or maybe it was just kids' cartoons in general, because I don't know if you guys have noticed this trope, but say with the character of Eugene on Hey Arnold, if there was any instance where it looked like he was about to get in some kind of bodily harm, they had to ADR the line, "I'm okay," after the fact, so that it would pass through. I think it was like either standards and practices or something. Like, that was why that became a mandate, because they had to just be like, look, he's not dead off screen, so that no parents groups would write in with angry letters and stuff.
That's now become like a trope joke.
Yeah.
It did become a very funny running gag, like just him, the brakes failing on his bike and like crashing head first into a cement truck. I'm okay.
Because they can't have like some kind of big explosion after the fact, and then he says, "I'm okay," but maybe they should, because that would be really funny.
That'd be even funnier.
So
can we talk about the salute? So the last episode where we see Steve go nuts, we also, Mirror Tulip meets 1-1 again.
Yeah.
Who is now the conductor in full force.
He's the best.
Yeah. Well, it's one of my favorite jokes, because you're the rare foil version of my friend Tulip, which is just a great joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I love in that, so they bring back Jesse because he promised to bring Mirror Tulip with him and couldn't.
Yeah. And that becomes his new crisis, basically, that he uses to get back into the train.
Oh, and I also love that we get a peek at like some of the other passengers who are being sent into the train and kind of the system.
And like the little girl that had, she bought the bearded dragon with her mom, but then it died. Like, yeah, that was, I don't know.
Sad.
It was very sad. But I was like, I was trying to figure out the thing with the guy. I think it was that, or like the pod that MT broke into.
Yeah, the old
It looked
guy.
like it was just like a workaholic dad that didn't spend enough time with his
It was.
kids. Yeah.
There's a whole, I found on the Infinity Train wiki. He has a name. It's Danny Nougat.
Oh, yeah, because that was on like the Betamax, or like the 8-track tape or whatever that they had for each passenger. Yeah.
And also, like, I made sure to keep a close eye, because one of the other things I love about Infinity Train is how good it is at foreshadowing. Because, I mean, like, you know, they built up season 2 with, like, stuff in season 1, like Mirror Tulip becoming the protagonist, and let's see, the stuff with the tapes. Oh, and also you can see Grace in the passenger manifesto in the first season finale. So I feel like a lot of stuff in season 2 that we've seen is going to come back in season 3 for whatever storyline happens there.
I think so too. Yeah, it seems like they're very much setting
like
it up
the
for
Apex probably going to be the main villains, and possibly one of those passengers we saw, or like somebody in the manifesto, is going to be the new leader or another character in season 3.
Yeah, I've heard some kind of fan theories about like the idea of Tulip and Mirror Tulip meeting in the real world at some point, which would have caused some kind of weird singularity issue. Like, I don't know, because like it would make
They're divided by
sense,
0.
Like, well, like, and that also, like, how long could Mirror Tulip even go throughout the world? It's like, yeah, admittedly, she should have every right to having her own life, but at the same time, she's still kind of doing it to jeopardize Tulip's actual life. So, which is not necessarily, like, I for a while, I had some issues with, like, MT's motivation. Like, I understood it, but I still thought it was kind of, like, it's pretty selfish, you know, if you really think about it.
It is, but also, like, I mean, we don't 100% know the implications, right?
Yeah.
Because presumably she's probably the only one that's been able to do it so far, potentially.
Yeah, probably. Well, and that's one of the things I love, that solution of she just holds her hand up to reflect his, and then Owen Dennis 1-1 goes, yeah, sure, whatever.
Well, yeah, because 1-1 just keeps getting into like a probability loop, and he's just like, and basically everything on the train around him is just kind of like falling apart. So
it's like in those movies or whatever, where like if you tell a robot like an illogical
it's a logic.
Yeah,
it's a
like
logic
what is
puzzle.
the square root of pi, or like whatever, or like like what does pi end at, or something. But
or to quote The Simpsons, could God cook a burrito that he himself could not eat because it was too hot?
it's a good question. I mean, it's still plaguing man to this day. Yeah, so I guess, are there any other real, do we miss anything plot-wise? I think we got most of it.
No, we pretty much hit on all the big things.
Well, I did like the bond between MT and Jesse, you know, just kind of how they grew as friends, because at first it was, you know, it was just kind of more circumstance brought them together, but I do love how they became, like, true friends.
Oh, definitely.
Through the end, and that's the thing with the Infinity Train. Like, its purpose is character development, if you really think about it.
Yeah, it's like you're there to either overcome some kind of trauma or start embracing change. And in this one in particular, it was more about identity. Where like with Jesse specifically, like he got to the point that he was so self-sacrificing that he kind of allowed his brother to get into harm's way, and he needed to learn how to stand up for himself. And MT needed to learn to not just like shut everybody out. Like, she had to learn, like, some more, like, just, like, empathy and understanding, and being able to, you know, accept certain sacrifices and stuff to help out others as well. Yeah, I really like the way that this one turned out, too, because presumably, I don't know, oh, and I think we forgot to mention this, actually, MT changes her name to Lake after she gets...
At the very end,
yeah. I heard some theory that, like, that was the first reflective surface she saw that she knew couldn't hurt her. So that's why she used it.
Oh,
but
that's 100%.
Yeah, like, I didn't know if that was it specifically, but that does make sense to me.
Yeah, that tracks.
My first thought was because the Lady of the Lake, you know, like from King Arthur.
Oh, yeah, possibly. I don't know.
It just what came to mind.
Yeah. But yeah, like, it just in general, I cannot wait for the third season.
Yes.
Hopefully they're working on it now. But, you know, I guess we'll find out, just because admittedly, like, between the first and the second season, it was a very tight amount of time. I think it was less than 6 months, wasn't it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Something like that?
Like,
yeah, well, because the first episode of season 2 aired in
January
of this year. So technically on January 1st, you could watch it online.
Yeah.
But then January 6th, it actually started airing. So
this is what I miss. This is what I miss when I don't have cable. I guess I just don't remember when the dates are, except for Steven Universe. I can keep pretty close track on those.
Oh, I'm literally looking at the wiki right now.
Oh, okay.
That's the only reason I know.
Oh, okay, fair point.
Yeah, I looked at it too, and yeah, like season 1 was August of last year, so yeah, it was a pretty quick turnaround, especially with the shorts.
Yeah, so I think, but it was just because they knew that the reception from the first season was so strong that they're just like, well, we have to just go for it. Like, I don't know if it's gotten quite the same amount of fanfare as something like Steven Universe has, or like a number of other Cartoon Network shows, like maybe Teen Titans Go. I don't know, but it's definitely it's a show that has a lot of passion, and it's extremely smartly written. And I really hope that it gets a lot more fanfare, or that it just does very well. It feels like it could be like kind of a sleeper sort of hit, but everyone I've talked to really likes it. So.
Yeah, and I think critically it got a lot of acclaim, because I remember a lot of websites and publications spoke very highly of it.
Yeah, it was on a lot of best of lists. I think along with did Hilda come out 2019 or 2018? I forget.
2019.
Yeah, I feel like it was 2019, like early, like February or something. But also, yeah, I think that Hilda season 2 should be out. I think September of this
I gotta
year.
watch that.
Yeah, it's really good. I think you'd like it, Jake. It's very cozy, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say that's
Yeah.
Oh,
a good way
and
to describe it.
back at it, I'm also a big fan of the anthology format of Infinity Train. You know,
Me
like,
too.
You know, because like I'm a big fan of stuff like Twilight Zone for anthology episodic, but also stuff like American Horror Story, which is thematic but an anthology season, so it's something different. But just it allows versatility, and especially with a show like Infinity Train, which is about a few core themes, like with character development and friendship, and it tackles those issues with different characters each season. So I'm very interested in seeing just who the cast will be in season 3, especially with as we discussed some of the things it seems they were building up to, or they're building up to in season 3, with like the Apex and some of the other passengers, and just how exactly that's going to come to a head. Yeah,
me too. And also just because I think that the anthology is especially befitting for a show like this, because it keeps the storytelling very tight.
Yeah.
Like the plot itself is it's very well contained, so that they can have overarching plots that don't come across as being too forced or drawn out, and they still are allowed to tell a very solid story with just like 10 episodes. Like I watched the entire thing yesterday basically, and it took me it was like maybe 4 hours, if that, because it's only it's only 10 episodes and they're about 11 minutes each, so like you could knock it out within like probably 3.5 hours, I'd say.
I watched most of it this morning.
Same. I rewatched it just before.
I should have rewatched it again this morning, but like it was still pretty fresh in my head. But I also just wanted to watch it again because I really liked it. Like
so good.
I honestly had a lot of trouble when it came to doing my notes and stuff, just because I didn't want to look down because it feels like one of those shows where it's like it's almost kind of like Over the Garden Wall, where like you sort of have to just keep paying attention. Like it's going to be short, but when it comes to doing notes and stuff, it's like if you do look away, you will miss something, which is like it's a rewarding kind of show, but you have to make sure that you're carving the time out for it. There's no it's not background noise like putting on Parks and Rec. Like as great as Parks and Rec is, a lot of it you can just like keep on when you're cooking.
It's good background noise because it's jokes just given to you as they're speaking.
Exactly. Yeah, and this is one of those shows that does not do that, and I personally really like that as a dynamic.
Yeah, and also just it is such a visually stunning show too. Just all the different backgrounds in the different cars, just because like we were saying, it's just always something different.
Yeah, because like the amount of time that they can spend on like every single car basically becomes its own world. So like the people that are leading that particular car, they come up with the world building and the rules and everything that applies to the characters and how it affects them. And like I think that even makes it better, because while it is episodic, each one is technically self-contained. And I think that like I like the challenges that end up getting tied to that specific car. Like just like how the Chrome car had totally threw her for a loop on that one. The same thing happened with I think it was like the beach car. Oh no, sorry, the Play Place car that they had in season 1.
I love the Play Place car.
God, it was so great. And like Ron Funches playing the bunny was like great.
Yes. Yeah, what was his name? Mr.
Mr. Cotton Bottoms, I think, something like that, or like Mr. Soggy Bottoms, I forget.
Wait, I got it around here somewhere.
Pretty sure it's Cotton Bottoms.
Mr. Khaki Bottoms.
Yeah, Mr. Khaki Bottoms.
Khaki
there
Bottoms.
You go. You were close. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty much my final thought, is that just I do want to mention this because I actually did just see this when I was doing some research earlier. Apparently, season 1 is going to be coming to DVD and Blu-ray on I think it's on the 21st of April, actually.
No kidding.
So definitely come as of recording this. It's coming up. So I'm like, and it's online.
I'm definitely grabbing that.
Like online,
Same.
it said it was $10. I'm like, that is totally worth
$10.
it. I hope that there's
it's like $1 an episode.
Well, that was based off of what I saw on, I think it was like Walmart.com or something. I don't know. Like there was a direct link for it from Wikipedia.
That's a good
for
price.
That. Yeah, I was like, dude, fuck yeah, I would absolutely get it for that, especially if there's either commentaries or behind the scenes stuff.
And it'll probably have the original pilot included.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I do want to mention that the entire soundtrack for the first season is streaming on Spotify. So if you just look up,
cool.
just look up Infinity Train. I think it was made by Chrome Canyon, and Chrome Canyon was back again to do season 2 as well.
Oh yeah.
So and it's just it's an awesome series. I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
And off that note, again, as a horror fan, like I really love the synthy soundtrack because it did kind of bring me back to this kind of sci-fi horror, which was prevalent a lot in the 80s, but also has gotten a lot of throwbacks as of recent or other stuff.
Very
like
John Carpenter. Yeah.
Yeah, and it also kind of reminded me of these sci-fi horror movies like Cube and Beyond the Black Rainbow that dealt with kind of contained environments and weird weird sci-fi mysteries. But yeah, no, definitely the John Carpenter comparison is very accurate. It does have that kind of synthwave style to it, which is very inspiring at times, but other times can make the scene very unsettling.
Yeah, it's got a great sense of dread tied to it too.
Oh,
where, like,
yes.
It can feel like there's some kind of like borderline nostalgia thing tied to it, but at the same time, like a lot of the creepier movies in the 80s all happen to use very similar kind of stings, and I'm like, I like that because you're kind of deep down, you're sort of conditioned for it. So so then when there is something truly creepy or like disturbing, it's just like, oh yeah, all right, there it goes.
Yes.
But yeah, so any other thoughts, or should we do our handles?
Okay, I guess want to just throw this out here. What kind of car or train cars are you hoping we'll see next season?
Oh, okay. Yeah, because we actually, Jake, I don't know if you heard our first episode for this, but we did describe what our ideal cars would be. But ones that I would like to see, so we technically have already had a theme park car. I'd like to see an aquarium car. I think that would be really cool. Like the idea of like either having like either some kind of corridors or like or maybe like a scuba car or something. I don't know. Just like some kind of like new sort of environment. Maybe a moon car would be cool. Like a alien planet kind of car. I don't know. What about you, Robin?
I honestly got nothing right now.
No, nothing you'd want. I would like to see a pizza car. That would be cool. We'll say that yours. We'll say that yours was a pizza car.
No, I'm stealing the aquarium car.
No, fuck
I like
you.
That
I want the aquarium car. You can have the pizza car.
You also said pizza car.
It doesn't matter. I said 3, and I like them all.
Well, that's too fucking bad.
You come up with your own car, damn it. It was Jake's question.
Yeah. Although, Tracy, would the car be made of pizza, or would there just be pizza in the car?
I like the idea of having breadsticks as like the foundation for whatever road that they're going on, or perhaps columns at a bank. I would like to think that the pizza itself would perhaps form some kind of lean-to. There's a garlic bread library.
Nice.
And perhaps some kind of, I don't know, I'm spitballing here. But, like, essentially they have to end up going through sauce at one point or another.
Gotta have the sauce.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have the sauce. What about you, Jake?
Well, you kind of beat me to the punch on one, but I was gonna say sea monster car. Just like a big old body of water and maybe some kind of kraken being in there, but a friendly
Jake,
kraken.
We get it. You really like Jaws. Actually, I saw that for the first time last week, and I was like, damn, this movie's real. I'd never seen it before, but I
still haven't seen it.
It's actually very good. I don't know why I kept avoiding it, but like I watched it. I'm like, this movie's great. It's creepy, but it's good. It had a couple of the Spielberg hallmarks before they became like tropes that he had for himself.
Well, it wasn't Jaws, just saying, like maybe it's like a big old body of water with like a giant squid in it, but a friendly giant squid.
Okay. Yeah.
Like
just like a fun giant squid, or like perhaps the Loch Ness monster, but he just wants to be your buddy.
Yeah,
like the one from Super Mario 64.
Are you implying that the Loch Ness monster doesn't want to be my friend?
I don't know them personally, so I can't really say that.
Though they may want tree fitty.
Yeah. You're gonna have them give him tree fitty or at least some snacks, but don't give them more than that because they're going to assume that you have more.
Oh wait, I got a good one. The VHS car, like it's like an old Blockbuster video or whatever.
Dude,
and just like
that would be
so
cool.
Just like
that would be awesome.
with every movie ever made, but on VHS, like modern movies, and like from the beginning of cinema, and like just you go and it's like an endless thing of video aisles.
Oh yeah. Oh no,
I mean, how would you ever leave?
Exactly.
I've got another one like that. It would be a trampoline car. You know, like those trampoline warehouses where they've got like all the surfaces you can jump on all the time. Yeah, basically just Sky Zone.
Yeah,
I think that would be a fun one too. But yeah, video store actually sounds amazing. If they haven't done that, they should, because a lot of kids will be like, "What is that?"
Yeah, it is from the before times.
Yeah, in the long ago. Yeah, okay. I suppose that's it. Let's go ahead and do our handles then.
Alrighty.
All right. So, Jake, where can they find you? And do you have any projects that you're working on currently that you'd like to promote?
You can find me on Twitter at Jacob Davison _ That is at JACOB DAVISON _ And you can find me on Instagram at Jacob _ Davison.
Nice.
And as for projects, I wrote a bunch of episodes for the horror anthology podcast Dead Time Stories for Ranker, which you can find on iTunes, Google Play, and all that. Currently, I got some upcoming podcast episodes with another... I'm not sure if I can talk about it now, but I'll definitely be posting about it once they're available, which should be sometime in April.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we'll definitely keep an eye out for that. All right, Robin, where can they find you?
As always, you can find me on lobster_writer on Twitter and lobsterwriter at Instagram. Tracy, where do they find you?
Thank you, Robin. They can find me on Instagram and Twitter via @TCTroush. We've got our show website. I don't update it. Whatever. I don't care anymore. But if it is easier for you to find our episodes on YouTube, you can also find them on there too. Just look for Not Joanna Eggs. You'll find our little head logo thing there. And otherwise projects, I'm just working my ass off on trying to get my portfolio up and running because, oh man, all this economy shit's really making me freak out, and I need to start grinding on it. So yeah, that's about it though.
Yeah, and thanks so much again for having me on board as a guest. I really love joining these conversations on cartoons and would love to come back.
For sure, dude. Yeah, you're awesome. And thank you so much for spending your time with us too.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I guess that's it. And we will be back at you. Sorry. And
one more time, Tracy.
I know.
You got
one more again.
Sound it out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Yes, we'll be back at you with more episodes soon, and we will talk at you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey guys, thanks again so much for listening. Our intro music is Don't Hold My Breath by Ben Briggs. The outro is Wet Dreams by Phonetic Hero. Both were found on ocremix.org. If you like the show, please subscribe, rate, and review us, or tell a friend to check us out. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Find the show website via notjoannaeggs.tumblr.com. Follow us on Twitter via @lobster_writer and @TCTrash. Not Joanna Eggs, because animation is for everybody.
Well, I like this idea of hats inside of hats.
Infinity hats.
Infinity hats. That's extremely my kind of joke.
There you go. Oh my god, me too.
There it is.